departments like DPW, you can do that a little bit easier, but with those smaller departments, you can't. And we have a few small departments here because we're a small staff, so that was a pattern that I saw pretty quickly here. So we're bringing to you a proposed hybrid system between merit and a STEP system. Employees would receive a 4% increase every 5-year incremental anniversary, okay? So that's what's kind of setting up the STEP system, that every 5 years they have the potential to advance in their pay range. They would have to meet expectations for all those 5 years. The program would begin in January 1st, 2019. Stipend proposed for those employees at the maximum of their pay range. That was proposed by department heads because if you have an employee at the maximum and you still want there to be an incentive for their performance, instead of having an increase to their base pay, it would just be like a stipend. That would just be an added line on their paycheck.
And this is in addition to the 2% CPI?
Correct. Correct. An optional proposal I just want you to discuss that did come up at the department head meeting and from some employees, that if they get one needs improvement out of the 5-year period, that they would be eligible for a 2% increase. So if you were to get a needs improvement that first year, that the other 4 years you could still work towards something. So I just want you to know.
Trustee Warren.
Yeah, I think that's probably, in my view, that's necessary. I mean, if you have one bad year, then you're disincentivized for the next 4. That's
right.
And also from a manager perspective, it gives you, like, it's knowing that if you don't get one, you can't get it. There's a lot of pressure to not give an employee a needs improvement then. So I would say that's another benefit to that. So.
Trustee Carpenter.
How is the stipend taxed? Because typically, like, a bonus is taxed at a much higher tax rate. So
It'll be spread out throughout the year so they don't get all the check in one time.
But would that be taxed at their normal tax rate?
Yes, unless they were, sometimes employees will change their W-9 or something to change that. But like I said, we spread it out because if that employee were to leave, let's say a month after they get that, I don't want them to get that all in one time and then leave us. So that's why we try to spread it out amongst the months. But yeah, they might put them into another tax bracket.
Well, typically, a bonus is taxed at almost 50%. And so I would just want to make sure that if we're doing that stipend, I would just want to know how that is taxed.
It would just be seen as additional wages for that period of time.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Benefits of the new system, it rewards longevity. Right now we don't have any incentive for that longevity factor, and we keep talking about retirements and especially getting some new blood in the organization. I think this would be something that would be nice to incentivize employees for staying in the organization. I ran a ton of models to determine what the sweet spot would be. I did 2, 3, 5, 6, 7%. 4% was the perfect number that for most of our pay ranges get you from the minimum to the maximum in a 30-year career, which if we have an employee for 30 years, that's pretty good. We've had a few, especially in DPW, but that's kind of the sweet spot. If you pick a number less or greater, it avoids that sweet spot. Now it puts an emphasis back on the evaluation content rather than the overall rating or score. You're only worrying about meeting expectations or needing improvement, so we can focus on the actual content. I think that's what matters. We're concentrating on trying to improve performance. As far as financial impact, Mark told you during the last budget session, there was nothing on the contingency line, and he said it's factored into what is just normal salaries and wages. And I think there was some confusion on that factor. And so I just wanted to tell you Mark's reasoning for that is to the best of my ability, which is, when he budgets for salaries and wages, there's a lot of different outside components, such as when you have turnover position, which we're getting that vacancy factor for you by the wrap up. Also workers' comp, if we have an employee that's out, workers' comp covers 66% of their wages. So there's a chunk of their salary that when we have an employee on workers' comp that we're not covering. That's another part. FMLA, we have some employees that they may not have a sick or vacation bank anymore, so they go unpaid leave. So that's another instance that we're not paying for wages. So Mark's telling you in the grand scheme of things, 8,500 to, dollars, like, that's all gonna work itself out by the end because of these reasons. Now, if you still wanna include that number on the contingency line, so it's spelled out, Mark said he's willing to do that, just know that you're moving the needle the other way. We're trying to get the 700,000 or whatever, so, because it's not factored in, you're moving the needle the other way. Does that make sense?
No,
Yes?
it's the same money in the budget, it's in the operating budget. Is that what you're saying? You'd have to subtract that out?
He doesn't have that at all. All he has under salaries and wages is everyone's wages increased by the COLA amounts. He doesn't have this factored in for this, the 7 employees that would be having a 5-year incremental
That's because his
anniversary.
vacancy rates are, correct, but it doesn't mean we're not incurring that expense. It's the same, he's just utilizing $8,500 worth of everyone got it from vacancies or
Right.
other things.
Well, right, vacancies,
So
workers'
instead,
comp.
so what you could do, I want to make sure that it's correct, you could lower the salary line by $8,500 and put it into another line. It shouldn't have to it shouldn't move the needle. It should just, you have a higher vacancy.
I see what you're saying.
There's no reason that it should
Okay.
cause a bigger gap,
Okay,
because you're going to be paying it anyways.
okay. I think we can have that discussion more when we talk about this vacancy rate, because I think if you identify a vacancy rate,
No, he already has one.
Are you saying you would put it in the motion tonight?
I would like it in a separate line if that's what's approved by the board. We used to have a separate line that said 10,000.
I guess that's the question, is does it need to be resolved tonight?
Yes.
So that would be part of a motion? That you
Correct. That's what you,
I don't necessarily, to be honest, I don't need that. If you want to save that for your wrap-up item, that might be more appropriate, but I'm more focusing on the actual policy of this program. I'm not necessarily looking for feedback on this unless you want to use this period of time to make that as a separate motion, that's fine. But for the action I'm looking at tonight, I don't need direction on that dollar amount, okay? Impact is all dependent on the number of 5-year incremental anniversaries and staff turnover. So, we might have one year that you have 10 people that would qualify, and the next year you might have only 4. It all depends on how many people have upcoming. So just know that, that number will tend to change every year, depending on how many people will qualify for that year. All right, so I'm gonna just do a quick example, because I like examples, and why not, don't tell Edwin when he gets older, please, that I use him in a budget slide. Maybe he'll think it's cool, because he's a dork like me, but who knows. So, Edwin, he started July 1st, 2018. He started at $42,000, his pay range is $40,000 to $55,000, and just know in this scenario, every year he does meet expectations, okay? So, beginning in 2019, this is the next year, with a 2% COLA, his salary goes up to $42,820. The pay range, both the minimum and the maximum, also increases by the COLA amount, so he stays in the same exact spot in the pay range, okay?
can I ask a
For
question?
this year, there is no performance pay adjustment because it's his first year.
Can I just ask a question? Is that, and I wish Mark was here, is that double count? Because you're hiring their
No.
salary range and you're increasing the salary range by 2% and you're increasing their COLA by 2%.
No,
Okay,
if we didn't do that, by not doing that, that is exactly why people were outside of their range to begin with. This is a best practice that you increase the minimum, because the whole market is shifting every year based on that, whatever the CPI or whatever you identify as COLA. So, he stays at, that's roughly the 20 percentile of his range. If you did not shift this, he would move from the 20 to the 25th percentile. And that's not what COLA is about.
So basically, everything shifts by 2%.
Correct.
All numbers shift by 2%.
That's correct. Yep. So we advance another year, 2020. Once again, a 2% COLA. So once again, his salary shift, the minimum and maximum shift, so he stays at, right now, still that 20 percentile, okay? Once again, it's year 2, so no performance pay adjustment. Let's skip ahead to 2023. I'm not gonna go through 21 or 22, okay? At this point, his salary is now up to $46,349 on January 1st. That's his pay range. Once again, at this point, he's still at that 20 percentile. But at July 1st, on his anniversary, 5-year anniversary, he received a 4% bump in pay. So now that puts him at the 48,203 mark, which rough estimate, I don't know, that's called 35, he's now at the 35 percentile now. This is the program that helps him advance from the minimum to the maximum. His pay range still stays the same at this point. It does not move. It only moves for COLA, not for performance pay. In this example, it'll take Edwin 30 to 35 years to reach the maximum in the pay range. That's how it works.
How do are you just gonna start everyone at the beginning salary range so that this can take place?
No, they already have their
A new
pay
employee.
range.
No, I mean a new employee, do you start them, say the salary range is 40 to 50,000?
Typically, we start them at near the beginning, but if you get, some cases where you have an employee that's already been, maybe doing that kind of work for 20 years and are just wanting to join the organization for a different, different environment. In that example, you probably wouldn't start an employee at the minimum. You'd probably pick somewhere in the middle based on their qualifications.
And what happens when they get to the top?
Then they max out. They're no longer eligible for increases to their base range. It's
Okay.
only that stipend pay, which that's up for you as a board and what you want to do with that. But
So,
we're proposing that you include that so there's still something that they can work towards.
Right.
But
I've never
That's
seen
up for
that
you.
in any municipality I've worked in. Yes, trustee Warren.
I was gonna ask something similar, is benchmarking, is this what other municipalities are doing in terms of kind of freezing merit for 4 to 5 years and then kind of having this kind of big sum at the end? Is this something that we see or?
it depends on the organization. This has been the 5th organization I've worked for. I've seen a model like this in one other municipality. 2 of the other municipalities had a merit system, which is more like our current system. And then 1 just did it on a case-by-case request basis, which once again I wouldn't.
But what about the lump sum payment after you reach the top of your range?
He said,
Oh, the stipend? None of the 5 had the stipend.
Yeah. Can, trustee Monk?
How are you gonna roll this out? How do you pick the people that are gonna get evaluated in year 1?
Everyone's evaluated still every year.
Oh.
So everyone receives an eval. You're just eligible for the increase if you're having a 5-year incremental anniversary. So if you have your 5-year anniversary, your 10-year anniversary, 15,
It's from the
etc.
date of employment, not
Correct.
Okay.
Trustee Menta?
Yeah, I think one thing that I was looking for Mark's email where he compared the COLA we gave versus the CPI. I think it'd be useful to do the COLA a year when we know the actual CPI and then pay the COLA based on last year's CPI.
Okay.
So I would suggest, especially since because we have paid more in COLA than actual CPI, our pay ranges are now in excess of what, I guess we had a couple of years where we were below.
Yeah.
But in general, I think we're still ahead of the CPI in our pay ranges. And second, and I agree, I've been in 3 or 4 merit systems myself for civil service positions myself. The majority were stepped. You had steps set out. But once you got to the top of the pay range, you're at the top of the pay range, and that's it. I don't consider that very common to be paying someone over what you've determined the maximum market rate for that job is. That's the maximum. So I
Typically,
personally don't support a stipend for anyone who's reached the top of their pay range. That's all I'll say.
Yes. To trustee, if I may, to trustee at this point, typically if an employee's at their maximum, we determine the maximum, which is typically top of the market. So if you have an employee, which we don't have many, but if you have an employee that's at the max, it's very hard for them to try to go elsewhere and make an argument that someone in that position is getting more than them. So the market argument is it's a very fair argument to make, that the fact that, you're already being paid at the top of your market, so you're maxed out. That's why you have maximums to begin with.
I also had a question, does this apply to department heads too, or?
Yes, this would be all employees except Becky, and it's up to you if you as a board want Becky to be included in this or not. as well as our library director, Rachel. Library board makes determinations on her increases.
Okay, so do we have department heads who are at the top of their range at this point?
No,
No. 98,000 isn't the top of a DPW's range? Is it higher than that?
I think it's not gonna be 98,000.
Oh, maybe I just, okay. I have a follow-up question. So, and bear with me for 1 second, because I asked the same thing for wellness, and I will continue to ask the same thing. Did everyone receive those from Mark, the year-after-year COLA increase? I don't know if it went to everyone. But the average is below 2% over the last 5 years, or we can have that outlined. So my question is, this year, so for the last, out of 5 years, at least 4 of them, by doing this program, are we gonna be budgetarily, if people, a certain percentage of people get their expectation of merit, are we increasing our budget? Are we spending more? We did with wellness, so it's okay if you support spending more or not. I'm not asking for that policy. I just wanna know